President of the Bilim-Innovation International Social Foundation, Darkhan Ote, believes a person who gives knowledge should be inquisitive and hardworking. Under his leadership, the foundation has provided 5 school books in English in accordance with the updated curriculum of Kazakhstan's education. And this is just one of the projects being implemented as part of the spiritual modernization program. In addition, the foundation prepared a methodology called the Value-Based School. In this program, we'll talk about the education of new generations and modern education.
Siz құндылыққа негізделген білім беру жайында жиі айтасыз.
You often talk about value-based education. What does it imply and how can we implement it?
Қай жолмен жүргеніміз дұрыс?
Әрине, ең алдымен жалпы қазір бүгін Қазақстан, ол кешегі Қазақстан емес. Қазір біз жалпы жаһандану үдерісінде өзіміздің осы
First of all, we shall realize that Kazakhstan has undergone changes. Today, Kazakhstan is a state that seeks to find its rightful place in the world community, in general, and among 30 developed countries in particular. In this regard, the program of Valuebased, Course Towards the Future, modernization of Kazakhstan's identity, plays an important role. The 6 directions of the program are based on the revival of the spiritual values of Kazakh citizens. In 2019, the Ministry of Education and Science developed and approved a new concept of upbringing and education. This document offers the strategy based on the 6 basic principles of the spiritual development of Kazakhstan society: preserving the national identity, pragmatism, the cult of knowledge, the evolutionary and not revolutionary development of Kazakhstan, and permeability of consciousness. Given these basic 6 principles, the education sector revised its further work. Accordingly, when the Ministry of Education and Science approved the new concept, we needed to review both the pedagogical methodology and the entire education system and the current situation in schools. Why? Because the processes of globalization have brought us a lot of new realities and new problems that seriously affect our lives. Thus, we needed other new ways of dealing with these challenges. And we must adapt ourselves to the new realities. Kazakhstan's system of education now faces one large-scale challenge. Therefore, what can we now call values? As Valuebased noted in his article, without preserving the national identity, modernization would become an empty word. In fact, each nation has its own spiritual root, and this is what Valuebased designated as a spiritual code. Someone calls it a national code. Therefore, we need to take the globalization with respect to spiritual national values. Otherwise, you can mislead yourself and make many irreparable mistakes. When we talk about education based on values, we mean just that. That is, the main goal of the new program is to educate and form a person who would master both national and universal values, as well as modern education and skills.
Ұлттық және жалпы адамзаттық құндылықтарды бойына сіңірген және заманауи білім мен қабілеттерді игерген тұлға қалыптастырушы ол.
In general, the concept of value is very extensible and has a wide range. Therefore, let's define the basic principles of its interpretation. Name them.
Енді әрине бұл біз жаңа тәрбие беру жағымен айналысқаннан кейін ең бірінші ол адамгершілік құндылықтар.
As we are engaged in upbringing and education, then first of all we need to talk about human values: love, mercy, respect for elders, care for the younger ones, responsiveness, compassion. These values are basic for personality. They lead to social responsibility, that is, value. Talking about national values, we should start from the origins. How these concepts appeared in our national consciousness. What is our history? Looking through the prism of time and history, we are entering a new level with a certain experience.
әлемдік құндылықтарға өстеніп жүрген кезде өзіміздің
But won't we lose our national values carried away by world trends?
айырылып қалмаймыз ба?
Өте дұрыс айтасыз, Дархан мырза. Біз осы біздің де көтеріп отқан мәселеміз осы. Яғни қазір мынау жаһандану үдерісінде, процесінде біз
You noticed it well, Darkhan. We are constantly monitoring this question when we turn to Western experience. Today there are several models of educational systems: Finnish, Singaporean, American. Implementing best practices and experiences of these successful systems, we must not lose our national identity. Otherwise, we will fail to raise generations who will love their homeland. We will not be able to create such a person whom Abai called a solid personality. As I said, initially by the concept of value we mean the basic human qualities. We are also considering our national values. Talking about main goals of modern education, the first thing that comes to mind is competitiveness. External goals of education are the development of critical thinking, the study of languages, the skills for building communications, setting goals. In English, this is called hard skills, but there are also internal values of soft skills. If raising a child we cannot provide him with conditions for mastering internal values, then this child may possibly become a strong personality, but he will never become a solid personality according to Abai. Why? Because he will give priority to wealth and his career. But if, for example, a child is smart and is showing mercy, love, loyalty to his people, then he will be a solid personality. Vasily Sukhomlinsky once uttered a good thought. If you came to this world as a person, then your next goal is to become a real person. Therefore, there are a lot of educated people, but at the same time there are a huge number of those who could not become real people. That is, here we call a real person one who, in addition to professional skills, also has high moral values.
Сен дүниеге адам болып келдің, ендігі мақсат нағыз адам болу дейді. Қараңыз. Адам білімді болуы мүмкін, бірақ нағыз адам бола алмай жүрген қаншама адам бар. Яғни нағыз адам деп тұрғанымыз осы құндылықтар арқылы білімді қоса игеру мәселесін меңзеп отырмыз.
Осы айтылған
How is this principle implemented in schools?
Осы айтылған дүниелер бойынша жаңа айттым ғой, жаңа тәжірибелік тұжырымдама ол жасалды, стратегиялық құжат қабылданды. Және биыл мынау
Practical concepts have been created in the areas I mentioned, which are part of the strategic documents. Based on them, a 5-year education development program for 2020-2025 was adopted this year. This program raised another question: what have we achieved before? What did we give to the generations with our previous education system? What basic values that I spoke about before they learned? Famous Strauss has a theory called generation theory. According to it, 5 generations live within 1 century. These 5 generations face difficulties while communicating with each other. Now we can clearly notice this with us. The generation that was born after us is called Generation Z. They have own way of thinking, own point of view, and speaking in general, we can say that Generation Z lives in a virtual world. And we, Generation Y, are a generation of the past. And if we do not find a common language with Generation Z, then this will lead to serious contradictions. Therefore, when we created a new education program, we had to take this into account. What is the main problem of Generation Z? In fact, they do not recognize the system of command and orders. If they are not interested in something, if they do not have personal motivation for one or another kind of activity, then they will not be engaged in these. They live in a virtual world. Therefore, we must take this into account in the teaching process. This generation also has serious difficulties in communicating with each other. Now, bullying has become a critical issue. It is harassment, mockery of each other. In our childhood, of course, this also happened. But we had more physical assault, but they don't have it. They don't fight. They mainly influence each other psychologically. Therefore, the main mission of value-based education is to instill mercy, humanity, and kindness. And that is why we pay special attention to these aspects in the new program. What should schools do, from directors to teachers and parents, to achieve these goals? Well, a child comes to school, and here one needs to understand that at this moment he has not yet formed as a person, and he absorbs everything that he sees. How should a teacher contact with him? First of all, teacher shall welcome him, be kind. It is very important. We focus on it in our program. Each participant in the educational process should play a role in front of the child. Everyone, from the school's leadership to teachers and parents, should build relations with him on an equal footing. Given the psychology of the child, relationships should be built in the lesson, at school, at home. There should be a healthy environment everywhere. A child should learn everything from positive examples. This is one of the main tasks of the program. For example, schools that work on the basis of value principles have special rules. The first rule, no talking in high voices. That is, no one has the right to shout and raise his voice. You see, that is, the director of a school should be a moderator of the educational process, treat students as friends, build communication with them on an equal footing. Then the child becomes more confident, free, and it is in this way that the student's potential is revealed. If the teacher gives the child public assessments, criticizes and compares in public, it will be extremely wrong. It is simply unacceptable for Generation Z.
Оны жаңағы достарының арасында сен 2 алдың, 3 алдың дейтін болса, бұл Z ұрпағы үшін өте үлкен ауыр жағдай.
Дәл осы тұста ақын Мағжан Жұмабаевтың да бір сөз есіме оралып отыр. Ата-ана баласын дәл өзіндей етіп.
I remembered one statement of poet Maqjan Jumabayev. Parents should not raise their children as their reflection. They must make them better than themselves, because the epoch of children is much more complicated than the time in which their parents lived. How relevant is this statement now? We have to agree with that. The generation theory which you and I have just discussed speaks of precisely this. That is, the experience of current parents is largely useless for their children. After all, you have experience, but you learned it in the past, in your youth. Many now often say to their children, I used to herd cattle, cleaned the barn at your age and managed to study well. Thus, you look through the prism of your time. But the modern child does not understand this, and he does not need it. The current realities are completely different. We must prepare the child for his future. Therefore, we must pay special attention to the requirements of today and not forget about the features of the time. But the parents of Kazakh children make a huge mistake, and I am a witness to this. For 10 years, I was a teacher. For 10 years, I was the principal of the school, and I can confidently talk about this. Our parents do not want to take responsibility. They take the child to school and think, let the teacher bring him up and educate. In today's world, this way of thinking is wrong. It is parents who should first of all take responsibility for the upbringing of their children. I somehow studied one American survey. It says that in the formation of the child as an individual, 38% of the responsibility lies with the parents, 18% with the school and teachers, and the remaining 44% falls on the environment and friends. So it turns out that parents have no less responsibility than school. Therefore, parents should take a proactive position in this issue. What is a proactive position? They must change, must keep up to date and look for ways. After all, Yelbasi speaks of openness of consciousness. Parents must stop living in the past. They need to live in the modern world. What are the trends now? Parents should be wondering, what is my responsibility? What do I need to know? How can I help him? That is, parents must be open to innovation. They must develop with the child. No way without it. If you want your child to be a strong, competitive person, then you should not rely only on school.
Білім беру бір басқа, алайда сол алған білімді
You know very well that to give knowledge is one thing, and to teach them to use it correctly is completely different. Do our teachers teach to rationally apply the knowledge that they give to children?
Бұған
We can't blame only teachers for this problem. These are social problems that come from our society, and this is precisely connected with the need to revive public consciousness.
мен бұл жерде біз ұмтылып
Asking you about this, I wanted to hear the answer to the question, will the value-based education that we are talking about solve this problem?
Бұл жерде практикалық үрдістерге өте қатты мән беріп отырмыз. Қазіргі мынау соңғы білім беру дамытудағы бағдарламаның да негізгі мақсат ол мазмұнды жаңғырту.
We pay special attention to practical issues. The main goal of the education development program is the modernization of content, the formation of a meaningful concept. What does it imply? First of all, from the point of view of functional literacy, this is the ability to use knowledge in practice, the ability to rationalize, and other things related to the content of education. Now we have begun to use this concept in practice. For example, there is the concept of PBL. This is a project-based learning. That is, you give the child one problem. The child himself explores it, finds answers, and presents solutions to parents, teachers, and friends. That is, the child develops an entrepreneurial spirit. He not only sits within the walls of the school, but also contacts the outside world. For example, at home, children consider how much electricity they spend, how much they have excesses and costs. They studied from the point of view of physics, and it turns out they learn the lessons of physics in practice and find solutions. These are innovations in education. There are some good changes, but of course we can't say that the child is 100% ready for tomorrow's life. But we are gradually moving towards this. The knowledge that is being given now may not be useful tomorrow, because the reality surrounding us is changing very quickly. Yelbasi, in his article Course Towards the Future, Modernization of Kazakhstan's Identity, said, in the near future, many professionals may become unnecessary, so we can't sit back and we should start preparing now. And here our main priority is innovative education. Do you see any work in this direction?
Цифрлық сауаттылық деген өте үлкен, зор мәнге ие болып отыр. Енді ол жаңағы рухани жаңғыру мақаласында цифрлық Қазақстан жобасы іске асу керек деп елбасымыз дұрыс айтып кетті.
Today, digital literacy plays a huge role. In the article, Yelbasi noted that the Digital Kazakhstan project must be implemented. Why? Because in general, we can consider and divide the world into two categories: the physical world and the virtual world. Our children live already in the virtual world. On this basis, various aspects of the life of world community undergo virtual changes almost every hour. Current research suggests that within 3 to 5 years, many professions that exist now will disappear. Major professions will evolve around the digital world. First of all, this is artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain. For example, we know that cryptocurrency already exists, and all this revolves around digital world. Therefore, many new specialties will appear, and now we must be able to predict them. We must be prepared for this. We must teach digital literacy to our children.
Біз соны болжай білуіміз керек. Соған дайын болуымыз керек. Балаларымызды қазірден бастап осы сандық сауаттылыққа қарай тәрбиелеуіміз керек.
The coronavirus, which shocked the world, seems to have accelerated this process. What do you think?
Өте дұрыс айтасыз. Бұл жалпы Қазақстан қоғамының болсын, жалпы әлемнің адамзаттың санасын.
Yes, you're right. This generally changed the consciousness of not only Kazakhstan society, but also the whole world. As you know, there are such experts, futurologists. In their opinion, this crisis indicates the end of the epoch, the end of this system. That is, the history of development which began in 1930, both in the economy or in some other areas of life and society, will end together with the coronavirus. This will be a starting point for the new model of the world order. And the main trend of the new world will be digital literacy. During the pandemic, all of us lived in an emergency and went online. We have done a great job. Now the main task, as I said, is to connect with the Generation Z in digital format using different animations and, as we call, gamification. Using game methods, we shall reveal talents, motivate. Otherwise, this generation will not be interested in knowledge, they simply will not accept it. This is the biggest problem in education right now. That is, the era of previous teaching method has passed. Today, teachers shall conduct the lesson in a digital, new and interesting format, using different infographics so that children are interested. This will lead to robotics. The child will be able to master a new sphere of coding. Thus, when new specialties appear in the digital space, the child will be able to quickly adapt. We must prepare the children for this.
Әртүрлі салада өзін дамытқан жағдайда бала ертең осы цифрлық кеңістікте көптеген мамандықтар шығады, бала өзін соған бейімдейді. Біз балаларды осыған дайындауымыз керек.
Қазір жеке
Children are different. Each has his own abilities. Now there is the concept of personalized learning. Is it worth introducing this teaching method at least in the advanced educational institutions of Kazakhstan?
Бұл тәсілді көбірек қолдану керек емес, бұл тәсілге өтуіміз керек. Өйткені бұл қазіргі әлемнің білім берудегі ең алға шығып отқан негізгі тренд осы.
We need to switch to this method of training. Today it is the main trend in the global educational system. In English, it is called adaptive learning. That is, a technique for providing learning based on students' individual abilities and skills. During the organization of the learning process, we teachers must think through several scenarios. Consider the high, medium and low levels. Because if there are 20 children in the class, then they are all, as you said, different. Therefore, we must first get to know each child personally and organize the learning process based on the development features of each of them. We can say that this is a big milestone that our educational system faces. The world is now moving to this format. Why? Because every parent wants the school to lean on the strength and skills of his child and develop his potential. Each child is a miracle. Each is unique. Each child is a separate world. We cannot fit them into one format. We cannot say that he should know and what should not. This is a huge harm that we can do. See? We must find what the child is interested in, what causes more interest and desire. Adaptive learning is aimed at an individual person. Each child has his own interests, his own destiny, his own path. And everyone is like a candle that can't light up in any way. We are thinking a lot about it now. Our main task is to modernize the learning process into an adaptive format. Once again, when teaching a new generation, it is very important to give knowledge in a digital content format. If we can switch to the digital format, then adaptive learning will come by itself. For example, you are preparing a history lesson in digital format, and if you prepare several scripts for the lesson, you will ask questions correctly. Then, based on the child's answer, you will understand which plan to use. Thus, you will have many opportunities that will greatly facilitate the learning process. Therefore, now, it is very important.
Мүмкіндіктер көбейеді цифрлық форматта. Сондықтан қазір бұл өте маңызды болып отыр.
What trends in the modern educational system can you highlight?
Енді қазіргі заманның білім жүйесіндегі ең басты трендтер бұл жаңа айттық қой цифрлық сауаттылық.
The main modern trends are, as I said, digital literacy, online education, artificial intelligence, digitalization. In addition, there is also work with big data system, robotics. It is interesting for children. We can also say about STEM and STEAM. This study of natural sciences on the example of life is a very big trend. We must not forget about artificial intelligence, communication-based learning, and finally, the adaptive learning that we just talked about.
Бұл өз алдына үлкен бір тренд. Және соңғысы қазіргі жаңа айтып кеткен ол adaptive learning дейді, бейімдеп оқыту. Ең үлкен тренд деп айтуға болады қазір.
Уақытыңызды бөліп бізге сұхбат бергеніңіз үлкен алғыс айтамын.
Thank you very much for the interview. Good luck.
Рахмет сізге.
Thank you.